Shalom, Sharon.
Shalom. Just a minute, something got in the way here.
Uh-oh.
There it is. Got it. I just got up.
Well, welcome and good morning.
Good morning.
Are you get more snow up there in the north?
Yeah, it's snowing like crazy now.
Mine's coming down. They're not real big flakes, but they're coming down.
Yeah.
They're sideways, Peter, and oh, there they are.
There we go. I don't know why. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Good morning.
Shalom. Speaking of streams. Hi there, Steve.
Well, do you have snow out east, Steve?
We have no snow at the moment.
Oh, we got over a foot in the last 24 hours.
You get snow in Alabama, Steve?
We get a flake every now and again.
Wow, it's really coming down.
Yeah, it was supposed to stop and maybe rain today and rain more tomorrow. So that's not happening.
No.
How's everybody doing?
Very good.
Better.
I got my heat turned up.
Yeah.
And sweaters.
We got we heat with wood in our wood stove, which we really like. And
Yeah,
I get this log. It was like this. It was like half the size of the opening. I got into the stove last night. It was like a Yule log. And, so that kept us warm all night.
Well, happy Valentine's Day, you guys.
Oh, that's right.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There's Susan. Hi, Susan.
I guess I didn't mute myself before sneezing, huh?
I didn't hear you sneeze.
I didn't.
Well, not Kellen heard you. So today, so Vanessa, let's see, Natasha Vollendorf, her husband Brant, his job is to clean the runways at SeaTac, and so they've been working 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and they've got like 4 kids, and she's not going to be here.
Oh, wow.
And then, hi, Vanessa. And Vanessa's going to do her first reading, and she's going to leave. Hi, Ann. So we have, we'll between the two, we'll have some verses to catch up.
Okay.
And then I think Rachel's going to join us. I'm pretty sure Rachel's going to join us pretty soon.
Okay. And what was you were saying somebody wasn't with?
Yeah, Natasha isn't going to make it because her husband Brant is in charge of cleaning SeaTac runways, and they're working 12-hour shifts.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm surprised he gets 12 hours off because
Yeah.
I've been thinking about him. So,
Wow.
all right,
Okay.
are we ready for Susan?
Yippee-ki-yay.
Okay.
Yippee-ki-yo.
By the way, we don't have any liturgy or anything we start off with. I'm kind of leaving that up to you before we start. However you pray or get ready. If you guys feel like we do need to do something, let me know. Okay. All right, go ahead, Susan.
Okay. Ve'ele hamishpatim asher tasim lifnehem. And these are the judgments which you shall set before them. Interesting judgments. Okay. Ki tikne eved ivri shish shanim ya'avod uvashvi'et yetze lachofshi chinam. If you buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. Im begapo yavo begapo yese im baal isha hu veyatsa ishto imo. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he was married, then his wife shall go out with him. Im adonav yiten lo isha veyalda lo vanim o vanot ha isha viladeha tihiye ladoneha vehu yetse vegapo. If his master has given him a wife, and she has borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he shall go out by himself. Ve'im amor yomar ha-eved ahavti et adoni et ishti ve'et banai lo et ze hofshi. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Vehi gisho Adonav el ha Elohim vehi gisho el ha delet o el ha mezuzah Veratza Adonav et Ozno Bamartzea Va'avado Leolam. Then his master shall bring him to the judges. He shall also bring him to the door or to the doorpost. And his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever.
Good job. And that word that Susan read a couple times, like in verse 3, im begapo, that word there, goof, is the root is translated as single. In modern Hebrew, it's body. Your goof is your body. That's, all right. It didn't sound strange until I just said it out loud. But anyway, I'm just, that's the word. Okay, so now we're up to Natasha, and she's not here. So Susan, do you want to take Natasha's first verse?
Okay. Vehi yimkor ish et bito leama lo tetse ketzet ha-avadim. And if a man sells his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do.
Thank you. So I'm going to go by the reading order. Hi, Rachel. Can you read verse 8? There you go.
You talking to me?
Yes, Natasha's
Okay.
not here, and we're
Oh,
reading
okay.
her verses.
Okay,
So we're up to verse 8 now, if you can do that.
sure. Im raya ra'a ve'ene Adonai asher lo yi'ada veheg vehefda le'am nachari lo yim shol le'mara bevegdu ba. Yeah. I'm going to read out of my Bible. For every item of liability, whether an ox, that's not right. I'm in the wrong chapter. Sorry, I'll read it off of here.
Okay.
If she pleases not her master, who has designated okay. If she pleases not her master, who has designated her for himself, then shall he let her be redeemed. Is that the right verse?
Yes.
Did I read the right Hebrew? I didn't read the right Hebrew. I am
Well,
confused.
Well, the English was correct.
yeah. Yeah, you're good.
Oh, I am so sorry. All right. To sell
All right.
her to a strange
job.
nation. What?
Wait, go ahead. What are you doing?
I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm reading the English. He shall have no power, seeing he has dealt deceitfully with her. All right.
That's good. Yeah, good job. Okay, Don, go ahead. Hey, by the way, Rachel, I
Yes.
realize when someone's not here and you got to jump in, those of you that are newer to this, I know that that's a big task. Good job.
Oh, it's okay. I have to get engaged to my brain. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Vayom levno no yadano neha kama shafet havana yot yasher lo. Oh, that was pretty rough. If for his son he has designated her according to the rights of the young woman, shall he deal with her.
All right. Good job. And that brings us to Vanessa.
Okay. Verse 10. Im acharet yikach lo she'era basuta venata lo yira. If another wife, he shall take in addition to her food, her clothing, her conjugal rights, he shall not decrease.
Good job. Sharon, verse 11.
11, okay. Be'im shlosh ele lo ya'aseh la ya ve'yatza kinam ein kasef. And if he does not do these three things to her, then shall she go out free without payment or money.
Good. And the next verse. Verse 12. Oh, your mic is off. There you go.
Okay. Make ish v'mit mot yevumat. One who strikes a man and he dies shall surely be put to death.
Yeah, good. It's funny because that's such a short verse, and it translates into more in the English. And part of that is the make right at the beginning. That's a participle. And so we can translate that, the one who strikes.
Yeah.
A participle is a verb used to describe somebody, like he is walking. Walking is a participle. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, good job.
Thank you.
And that was the last verse for Natasha. So that brings us to Rachel.
Okay. Let me get a drink of water.
Later, let's remember that we stopped with Anne. So the next time we have to fill in, the first reader will be Steve.
Man, I'm fidgety today. Okay. All right, here we go. Va'asher lo zada zahda ve ha Elohim ina le yadu ve shamti lecha mahom asher yanus shama. Okay, I'm gonna read it in here. But for one who had not lain in ambush, and God had caused it to come to his hand, I shall provide you a place to which he shall flee. So is it saying that accidental deaths are caused or ordained by God?
Isn't that exact? It seems like that's exactly what that verse says. I mean, wow.
Seems like it.
Yeah, God, God allows him to come into his hand. Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I first read that. Yeah, interesting.
It's interesting. Everything mirrors our justice system today.
Yeah.
Anyway, vehi yatzed ish al re'ehu le hargu be arma me'im mitzveti tichakenu lamot. If a man shall act intentionally against his fellow to murder him with guile, from my altar shall you take him to die. Umache avin ve'imu mot yomat. One who strikes his father or mother shall surely be put to death.
Hey, I was
They-
thinking about Rachel's comment about, it took me a minute, about verse 13.
Yeah.
I get some little different from that, but because it says, but God delivers him into his hand, to me, it seems to mean more that just God gave him victory. In that he, that he won the fight.
Oh. I don't know, because talking about, it's not so much war here as
No,
like,
but just an individual skirmish that
oh, I see.
God allowed him to
Oh, okay, I see.
survive or win.
Are you thinking like when our boys were in judo matches, that kind of thing?
He says, but God delivers him into his hand, seems to be more that God was on his side. rather than God causing the event to happen.
Anybody else?
Well, I'm looking at my commentary. It says, for example, he has
Some,
not lain in ambush. He is not deserving of death, though his crime should be punished. So let's see. In describing the case of an accidental homicide, the Torah says God has caused it to come to his hand. It's a fundamental principle of the Torah that events are not haphazard. Always there is a guiding hand of God. Sudden coincidental happenings only seem to be so. When someone is struck by the tragedy of having unintentionally killed a fellow human being, surely a traumatic experience, he should realize that God's sins has caused it. It indicates that he must have committed some sin or crime that went unpunished. Oh, interesting. And that his current victim must have been guilty of a capital offense that went undetected. By causing one person to cause the other's death, God was squaring the accounts, for God's justice is unimpeachable. It is only we who are incapable of comprehending it.
Wow, that's that in itself is pretty harsh. I mean, and that makes sense.
But when you watch Rabbi Foreman, he has
Yeah.
a guy out in the woods chopping down trees,
Right.
and his
right.
axe head flies off and actually hits the guy in the head and kills him.
Yeah.
That's what I see in my head, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it could
That's
be a
an-
lot of things, even what
That's
Susan said.
that's an
too.
example in the Torah. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
you know, I just listened to a teaching on the book of Job, which contrasts conventional logic about cause and effect, where, you know, here Job is, and he's unblamed, unblameable, I guess is what I think it says, and yet all of this evil comes about into his life. And for us as mortals, trying to understand the immortal is a little, you know, the events are bigger than us, that we can't comprehend all of that. At least that's what I got from the teaching. So this cause and effect of someone having committed a sin and then getting punished for it seems to be kind of on not necessarily solid ground, I guess is what I'm saying.
Let's, if you want to stick around afterwards, I'd like to come back to that. Anyone that wants to stick around when we're done, because that's a good, interesting thing. And also the woman taken as a slave, there's some interesting stuff about that. So, and anything else we think of during this time. If you want to hang around, we can do that. That'd be interesting. Where are we?
16.
Oh, Rachel.
Okay. Okay. Vegonev ish charu nimza adu mot yomat. One who kidnaps a man and sells him, and he was found to have been in his power, shall surely be put to death. Kalel avin ve'imu mot yomat. One who curses his father or mother shall surely be put to death. Veki Yerevun Anashim Vehika Ish Et Reihu Ve'evun no Ve Even O ve egg rune, oof, ve egg roof, ve lo yamut, ve nafal le mishkab. If a man quarrel and one strikes his fellow with a stone or with a fist, excuse me, and he does not die but falls into bed, Im Yakum.
Oh, you're
Whoop.
good. You're
Oh,
good.
sorry. I'm not
Now we're up
18.
to, yes, you did well. And up to Don now.
Im Yakum vehit halech bachutz al mishanto venika hamakerach shivto yiten verachpo yirachpe. If he gets up and walks about outside through his own power, unpunished is the one who struck. Only for his lost work shall he pay, and the cost of healing he shall provide. Vehi yake ish et avdo o et amato bashivet u met tachat yado nakom yi nakem. If a man shall strike his slave or his female slave with the rod, and he shall die under his hand, he shall certainly be avenged. Ach im yom o yomachim im ya'amod lo yucham ki kaspo hu. But if a day or 2 days he will survive, he shall not be avenged, for his property he is. Vehi yinatsu anashim venag fu isha hara ve yatsu yala deha velo yihiye. Ason anosh yi anesh ka asher yashit alav baal ha isha ve natan biflim. But, let me see, I got that, so. If men shall fight and they shove a woman who is pregnant, and there is miscarriage of her fetuses, but there was not a fatality, he shall certainly be penalized, as shall be assessed against him because of the husband of the woman, and he shall pay by order of judges. V'im ason yihiye ve'nata nefesh tuchat nafesh. But if a fatality there shall be, then you shall award a life in place of a life. Ayin tahat ayin, shen tahat shen yad, tahat yad, rechel tahat rachel. An eye in place of an eye, a tooth in place of a tooth, a hand in place of a hand, a foot in place of a foot. Something that is kind of curious for me is the word for foot. It changes pronunciation from the first to the second. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, I don't know why. There's probably some kind of grammatical reason, and I don't know it. Okay, go ahead with Vanessa.
Okay. Kivia tachat. Kivia teza tachat. Haza habura tachat habura. A burn in place of a burn, a wound in place of a wound, a bruise in place of a bruise. Taki yache ish et ein avdo o et ein amato vashichata lechafshi yishlach. Let's try that again. Yishlach enu tacha enu. If a man shall strike the eye of his slave or the eye of his female slave and destroy it, to freedom he shall send him in place of his eye. Va'im shen avdo oshen amato yapil lachafi ishal henu tahat shinu. And if the tooth of his slave or the tooth of his female slave he knocks out, to freedom he shall send him in place of his tooth. Vachi yigach shor et ish o et isha bamet sakol isakel ashor velo yakel et basharo basaro u vala ashor naki. If an ox shall gore a man or a woman and the victim shall die, certainly stoned shall the ox be, not eaten shall its flesh be, and the owner of the ox shall be innocent. Ba'im shor nagach hu meat mol shall show shi shil shin no shil shom vahu ad viv al lav valo yishmir mirenu yishmirenu ve hemit ish o isha ashur yisakel vegam be'alav yimol yomat. But if an ox that gores habitually, it was from yesterday and the day before yesterday, and there had been warning to its owners who did not guard it and killed it, oh, and it killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and even its owner shall deserve to die. Im kiker yoshat alav venatan idon nafsho akil asher yoshat alav. When an atonement fire shall be assessed against him, he shall pay as a redemption for his life whatever amount shall be assessed against him.
Thank you. And there's a clue there. So the owner of the bull is supposed to die, but he can pay a redemption price. And that goes back to those other ones like eye for eye and tooth for tooth that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, apparently in Jewish history, they weren't pulling people's eyes out, but they were assessing a monetary fine. And you can see that, like here it's saying even for a life in this case. And then other times, if in like the case of murder, you know, it says you may not ransom his life, he must die. So thank you, Vanessa. And
Yeah.
Vanessa is in the business of selling their home, so she's she's got a lot of work to do, and she's gonna
Yes, we
really
do. Yep. 18 years of stuff, but here we go. All right. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you next week.
Okay.
All right, Vanessa.
Bye.
All right, Sharon.
Okay, 31. Oven yirach, ova yirach, kamishpat, hazeh ye'estelo. Whether it has gored a son or has gored a daughter, according to the judgment shall it be done. Em ived yirach hashor, o ama kesef shloshim shkalim yiten ladonav yehashor yisakeh. If the ox shall gore a manservant or maidservant, he shall give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. Vehi iftak eshbor o ki yekre ishbor velo yikasenu venafal shama shor o chamor. And if a man shall open a pit or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and the ox or ass falls into it, Baal Habor Yashalem Kesef Yashiv Livalav Vehamit Yihi Yelo. The owner of the pit shall make good and give money to its owner, and the beast shall be his. Veche Yigov Shoresh Et Shor Re'ehu Vamet U Makru Et Hashor Hachi Vekatzu Et Kaspo Vegam Et Hamet Yiketzon. And if one man's ox hurts another, then he die, then they shall sell the ox, the live ox, and divide its money, and the dead ox also they shall divide. Onoda Kisho Nagach Hu Mitmol Shilsho Velo Yish Mereru Nu Be Alav Shalem Yishalem Shor Tachat Ashor Vehemet Yihi Yelo. Or if it's known that the ox is used to gore in times past, and its owner has not kept it in, he shall surely pay the ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. Okay, I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good job. And verse 37.
Okay. Okay. Ki yignov ish shor o se ut vacho o mekaro chamisha vakar yeshalem tachat hashur v'arba zon tachat hase. Okay. And if steals a man an ox or a sheep or and slaughters it or sells it 5 cattle, he shall make whole or pay in place of the ox and 4 sheep in the place of the sheep. Ima bama, let's see, ima bamach teret yimatze haganav v'chukha vamet en lo damim. If in I think breaking in is the, here in the Chumash it says while tunneling in.
Really? Tunneling
Yeah,
in.
which I find interesting. But the other translation, I think it was kind of like in breaking in, he should be discovered, the thief, and he's struck and dies, and not to him is a blood guilt. Okay. Im zarcha hashemesh elav damim lo shalem ishalem im ein lo v'nimchar big nevato. Okay, and if has arisen the sun upon him, there is blood guilt to him, and he shall certainly have to make good or repay.
I gotta say, oh yeah, go ahead. You didn't finish
Okay.
reading. Yeah.
Okay, and if there is, if he has nothing, he shall be sold for the theft, for his theft.
Okay, can anybody tell me what that verse means? Because I've never understood it.
Well, I think if he's caught in the daylight, he has well, you know what I think is interesting, because it's talked in the verse before that if he's caught and he's killed, you know, there's no blood guilt for the person who killed him. But then this next verse, it talks about you know, if he's found, and I think it means that if he's found and killed and it's daylight, that means the person who killed him could see who he was, perhaps, and then there is some kind of a guilt on him. But I think instead of, you know, instead of going free without anything, it looks like well, there's something there that it seems to me like on the verse before is talking about the person who might have caught him in his theft, and the second one, it sounds like more it's talking about the person who actually got caught trying to steal. You know,
You bring up an interesting point. You could see him in the daylight, and so maybe it's a thing where he can now be testified against, whereas at night.
Which verse are you talking about?
well, kind of two, yeah.
If it happens during the the night you can't identify him, there's no other recourse. I'd never thought of that. That's a possibility.
Peter?
That's kind of what I got when I was thinking through that daylight makes a difference.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Um,
but on the second verse, it sounds like he's not killed. I mean, it sounds like then he's got to be sold,
Right.
as that indentured servant, into slavery to pay off that debt. And
Right.
the first one is talking about if he's caught and he's killed during the night, then the person who killed him doesn't have like a judgment against him. So
Right.
that part was a little confusing because on the one hand, it's talking about two different people from one end or the other, I think.
Right. Go ahead, Don.
There is a note in from Rashi, and it on verse 2. If shine did the sun. According to Rashi, the term is allegorical. If it is as clear that the intruder means no physical harm as it is clear that the shining sun brings peace to the world, then it is forbidden for the householder to kill. An example of such clarity is the case of a father burglarizing his son, for it is certain that a parent will not murder his child. Okaleos, however, renders the witness observed the thief. Accordingly, the reference to a shining sun suggests figuratively that the event occurred during the day when witnesses saw the burglar. That's by Ramban. Under such circumstances, he would not dare kill the householder because he would surely be apprehended. Consequently, it is forbidden to kill him.
Interesting. Yeah, that is good. Thank you.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily think that's a true statement, but
Yeah.
true.
Do you guys agree that it's just in terms of right or wrong, just to kind of what you know in your heart, that if someone's trying to kill you, you can go ahead and take their life first, but if somebody's trying to steal your stuff, you don't really have the right to kill them.
Yeah, it's interesting because generally, we talk about laws in the states deriving from Torah and common law in England. And in the United States, the castle doctrine, like here in King County, there have been homeowners that have shot burglars, and they've been found not guilty, and that there's no indication that the burglar was intending
to kill
to
them,
murder necessarily.
right?
And so it seems like that would be contrary to what we're reading here.
Yeah, I think that's what it's saying, in my opinion, is that at night your life might be in danger, and you got to do what you got to do. But in the daytime, you can kind of see what's going on, and the guy doesn't have any intent to kill you. He just wants to take your sheep or or something in your.
And they don't have security lights or any lights at night like we do.
Right.
So it's
like being blindfolded.
That whole, the whole identification thing comes into play, which I'd never thought about before. Neighbors can see also. So thanks, guys. I feel better about that than I ever did before. Okay, go ahead, keep going.
Okay. Im hamatze timatze beyado hag neva mishur ad hamor ad se chayim shanim yeshalem. Okay, and if there's found in his possession the theft of an ox or a donkey or a sheep alive, double shall he repay. Ki yaver ish sadeh o kerem. Yeah. V'shilach et be'iro uvire, uvier, bis de, acher, metav, sadehu, umetav, karmo, yeshalem. And if, oh yeah, well, if allows a man to devour in the field or a vineyard, and he sends out his livestock, and he grazes it in the field of another, from the best of his field and from the best of his vineyard, he shall pay. Ki tetse.
You know, that's, hold on a second. My BHS says beast or livestock for that be'ir. But do others have if the burning goes out and burns in your translation?
I thought,
Or does everybody say?
No.
I thought burning has to do with the next verse.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you're right.
I'm seeing here verse 5 is, we're talking about burning.
Yep.
Oh,
Good. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Ki tetse esh
Clarify?
umatza kotsim v'ne'echol kal gadish o hakama o ha-sadeh shalem yeshalem hamav ir it habera. And if a fire goes forth or goes out and it finds thorns and eats a stack of grain or a standing crop or the field, surely shall make whole the one who kindled the fire.
Yeah, good job.
Is that a different numbering in your?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the same spelling of the root, but yeah, it's a different. The first one is 1197 in Strong's, and this one is 1200. It's interesting.
Okay.
It reminds me of when we had horses. We had one that we called a hay burner because it just goes through hay like crazy, and so it's a beast that burns through hay. It's kind of like both. Makes me wonder if that expression hay burner came from someone who knows Hebrew. Thank you, Anne. And now we're up to Steve.
So on those two verses, I mean, have you looked into why those are two different numbers and the exact same? Yeah, I'm very untrusting of the numberings and the man-made definitions. I mean, I think if you read that as burning, it could very well. I mean, it seems to be in context as well. So I'm glad it's a good find.
It's interesting. Yeah, you can't. I agree. Like there's times when because the King James translated a certain way, Strong's does it a certain way, and then everybody. And I think it's legit here that there's a difference, but yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know when you read it, it could be both ways. I mean, but it seems like the very next verse it specifically says the word Aish, so it's fire for sure, but I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
So are you talking about the second word in verse 4 then, and then kind of contrasted that with the word for livestock? That play on words?
That word in verse 4, the second word in verse 4, and it's used throughout the verse, contrasted with that same root in verse 5.
It's identical.
Identical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So if you
Neighbor.
just, so if you read for, so if you read it and it says when a man, so if you read it like if a man burns a field or a vineyard,
Uh-huh.
or has sent out his burning, and it had burned in the field of another, the best of his field and the best of his vineyard, he does repay. And then the next one says, when a fire goes forth and has found thorns. So I don't know.
Right. It totally makes sense the way you just read it.
Yeah. I wondered the motivation behind such a change. Because I know there's some stories like in Samson, right? where he ties puts the torch between the
Right.
foxtails and he burns a man's field, a lot of them. And so I don't know, maybe they saw something that made them think we need to kind of sweep this under the rug and change it to something different. I don't know. I mean, I'm always suspicious of anything that's like this.
Yeah. Maybe
Apologize.
Samson was trying to combine these two verses by, using a beast to burn up fields, so
Maybe
he was
so.
trying to bring agreement between these two verses.
There's so many things to think about on this. Good find though.
All right, go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Ki yitain ish el re'ehu kesef o kelim lishmor vegunav mi beit ha'ish im yimatse haganav yeshalem shenaim. Because a man gave to his friend or neighbor silver or vessels to guard, and stolen from the house of the man, if the thief is found, he will pay double. Imlo yimatse haganav venikrav Baal habait el ha'elohim imlo shalach yado bim yado bim lechet re'ehu. And if the thief is not found and is drawn and is brought near the owner of the house, and I don't know if this is to God or to the judges, if not, sent out his hand against the work of his neighbor. Al kal devar pesha, al shor, al chamor, al se, al salma, al ko aveda asher yomar ki hu ze ad ha'elohim yavo devar shnehem asher yarshi'un Elohim yeshalem shenaim lare'ehu. According to all the words, according to all the matters of transgression, according to regarding an ox, regarding a donkey, regarding a sheep, regarding a cloak, regarding anything lost, that he says, because it is this, until God or the judges comes, a word of both of them that God determines as wicked, he shall pay double to his friend or neighbor. Ki yitain ish el re'ehu chamor o shor o shevekol behema lishmor umet o nishbar o nishba ein roe. Because a man gave to his friend a donkey or an ox or a sheep, or any beast or animal to guard, and he dies or is broken or is taken captive, there is none seeing. Shavuat Adonai tihiye ben shnehem imlo shalak yado bimlechet re'ehu velakach be'alav velo yishalem. An oath of Adonai will be between the two of them if his hand was not sent out against the work of his neighbor, and its owner does take, and he will not repay. Is that it, or one more?
You've got one more.
Okay. Ve'im ganov yiganev me'imo yeshalem livalav. And if it was surely stolen from with him, he will pay to its owner.
Thank you. And are you reviewing the Hebrew recordings when you practice?
I am. I try to do that to make sure I don't get anything, but I still will find myself completely missing something as I go along. So if y'all hear anything obvious, call me out on it so I can catch myself.
No, I probably won't call you out on it. I'm
Feel
not
free
doing
to.
that with pretty much anybody, because I figure, by the way, the reason I said this right now is it sounds like you're reading great, and it sounded like you are listening to recordings. So I wasn't criticizing anything. So yeah, if I corrected every mispronunciation, we'd have to add an hour to this. And I figure if you're mispronouncing, it's just because, you're not, you guys are doing great. Like, remember, anytime you think you haven't learned much, just look at a page of Arabic, because that's what Hebrew looked like when you first looked at it. And so, you guys are doing great. And you might get a word wrong today, and in the future you'll get it right. So, okay, Colin, go ahead.
What 1 second before on that verse 11 for us? In this case, the person who's responsible for the property just replaces the property. He doesn't pay double because he had no intent of stealing it. Is that what I'm understanding?
I believe so. Is that? Yeah, that's what I get from it. Yeah. It's interesting, like, if you allow something to, if you allow your neighbor to store something at your house, you become responsible for it. I hadn't really thought about that before. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Im tarov yitaref yeviehu ed hatorefa lo yishalem. And if it is certainly torn, he shall bring the torn animal as a witness and shall not have to pay. Vechi yish'al ish me'im re'ehu v'nishbar omet be'alav en imo shalem yishalem. And if a man asks of his neighbor, and it is injured or dies, and his owner is not with him, he shall certainly pay. Im be'alav imo lo yeshalem, im sachir uba bischaro. But if his owner is with him, he shall not pay. If it was a hired animal, it shall come with its wages. Vechi yefate ish batula asher lo orasa veshachav ima mahor im harena lo leisha. And if a man seduces a virgin who is not pledged to be married and sleeps with her, he shall certainly acquire her to himself as a wife. Ima'in yema'in avicha letita lo kesef yishkol kemohar habetulot. And if her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, then the money shall be weighed out for the bride price of virgins. Mechashefa lo techaye. Source says you shall not allow to live.
All right, thank you. Kol shoched im behema mot yumat. Anyone who lies with a beast shall certainly be put to death. Zoveach le'elohim yachoram birti la'adonai levado. Anyone who sacrifices to gods shall be devoted to destruction. You shall only to Hashem himself sacrifice. That's kind of an awkward one. Okay, Veger lo tone ve'lo tilchatzenu ki gerim hayitem be'eretz Mitzrayim. The stranger or the sojourner you shall not afflict or oppress, and you shall not afflict him, because you are strangers in the land of Egypt. And today in Orthodox Judaism, ger tends to mean more of a convert. And this would be an example where this does not have the meaning of convert, because they didn't convert to, or at least they shouldn't have converted to anything in Egypt. Okay. Kol almana veyatom lo te'anun. Every widow and orphan you shall not afflict. Im ane te'ane oto ki im tza'ok yitz'ak elai shamoa eshma tza'akato. If you certainly afflict him, then their cry to me, I shall certainly hear their cry. They shall certainly cry to me, I shall certainly hear the cry. I don't know of any other verse in Tanakh where there's 3 double words like that.
Good point.
Yeah. I remember when I was like in 4th or 5th grade, I found out bookkeeper is the only word in the English language with 3 double letters. And I just never forgot that. And and here's this verse with 3 double words. And I just never forget that. I've never, O-O-K-K-E-E.
Oh, there's 2 K's.
Yeah. And so I don't know. Yeah. And anyway, that's really trying to hammer home the point there, not to afflict orphans.
How are you getting 3 there?
So it's im ane te ane. It's afflict. Oto ki im tza'ok yitz'ak. Cry out to me. Shamoa eshma. I will hear. Here. So those 3 words are doubled.
It doesn't show that in the transliteration.
No. Oh, it doesn't in the transliteration?
What?
They left something out?
Well, I mean that translation, I guess, because it says if you afflict them.
Right. I know. This is an example where you miss it in the translation. It's
right. They rob us.
What's that?
They rob us.
They robbed us. They ganav. They gazal. They ganav. Okay.
Peter?
Yeah.
There is a note here If you in any way mistreat, he shall cry out, and I shall certainly hear. This verse contains 3 double verbs, an unusual construction. The import is to stress the oppression of the orphan or the widow is a double attack, for it opens up a previous wound. The victim cries out doubly, if my father, husband were still alive, this would not be done to me, and Hashem will exact double retribution. And
Who-
that was Menachem Mendel of
Wow,
Kotzak.
that's good. If that was Rashi, I was going to say that was one of the first things I've ever heard from Rashi that I like. But that's cool. Wow, I like that. Opens up a wound. That totally makes sense. Okay. Vechara api veharagati etchem becharev vehayu neshechem alamanot uvenechem yetomim. And my anger will burn, and I will kill you with the sword, and your women shall be widows, and your children orphans. Im kesef tarave et ami et
That's my verse.
what?
Hmm?
Did I screw up? Wow, I messed up. Oh, okay. So what? Thanks for catching me. Go ahead.
Just read the rest
Is
of the whole thing, Peter. We know you want to.
Is it not my verse?
No, you're
Yeah,
right.
it's your
It's your verse.
I've been watching and waiting.
Yeah, always feel free to call me on that, guys. I'm not trying to step on your verses.
Okay. Im kesef talve et ami et he ani imach lo tihiye lo kenoshe lo te simun alav neshech. If you lend money to any of my people with you who is poor, you shall not be a creditor to him, nor shall you lay upon him interest. Im chavo tachbol salmat re'echa ad bo hashemesh teshivenu lo. If you take your neighbor's garment as a pledge, you shall deliver it to him by sundown. Ki hi chesuto levada hi simlato le oro bame yishkav vehaya ki yitzak ele lai veshamaati ki chanun ani. Hey, when I was doing this, I got struck by the Yitzhak, wondering if I kept looking for Isaac in the words.
It sounds kind of like it, but Yitzhak has a chet in it, and this doesn't.
Well, I looked all over and it's certainly not there. And it didn't help me to kind of look at the word. So that must be okay. For that is his only covering. It is the garment for his skin. Where shall he sleep? And it shall come to pass when he cries to me that I will hear, for I am compassionate. Elohim lo te kalel ve'nasi ve'amcha lo ta'or. You shall not revile the judges, nor curse the ruler of your people. Mele atcha ve'dim acha lo te'acher bechor banecha titen li. You shall not delay to offer the first of your ripe fruits and of your liquors. The firstborn of your sons shall you give to me.
Can I interject for a moment here? The translation of that is a couple words that I'm not familiar with in the Chumash. It says your bikurim and your teruma. Are you familiar with those terms?
In Judaism, those are words that they will carry over, like when we say tabernacles, they say sukkot, right? Because sukkot is the Hebrew word. So bikurim is first fruits, and they'll carry that over, and as part of normal conversation. So since the Chumash is written for, the primary readers are Jews, they're going to use the words that are more common in their talk. The Bikurim, and what was the other one? Teruma, yes, Teruma is offering. So they're gonna, those are like, just like we would say, what? Infant, is French. I don't know a good example, but yeah.
Not your children?
Yeah. I mean, but that's what it is. It's like to them, it's not a strange word. And to you, as you learn Hebrew, it will not be a strange word. And someday you'll be reading that and just float right over it. All right, Susan, go ahead.
29, right?
Yeah.
Ken ta'aseh le shorcha le tso necha shiv'at yamim yihye im imo bayom hashmini titno li. Likewise shall you do with your oxen and with your sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. Ve'anshe kodesh tihiyun li uvasar basade terefa lo tochelu la kelev tashlichun oto. And you shall be holy men to me, nor shall you eat any flesh that is torn of beasts in the field. You shall throw it to the dogs.
Good job. Now, Natasha is next up, but she's not here. So, Steve, can you go with verse 1?
Lo tisa shema shav al tashet yadcha im rasha lihiot aid Hamas. You will not lift up empty hearing. You will not set your hand with wickedness to be a testimony of, or a witness of violence.
Yeah, I like your word there, violence, but usually the English says malicious, but that is violence. All right, thank you. And so now we go to Kellen, verse 2.
Okay. Lo tihye acharei rabim le'ra'ot velo ta'aneh al riv lintot acharei rabim le'atot. And in English says you shall not follow after the crowds. Okay. Do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. When you give testimony in a lawsuit, do not pervert justice by siding with the crowd.
Okay. And verse 3, Vedal lo tehedar berivo, and do not exalt or glorify the poor in his strife or his case. And then Susan, are you there? Can you do verse 4?
Okay. Ki tifga shor oyivcha, o chamoro, to'eh, hashev, teshivenu lo. If you meet your enemy's ox or his ass going astray, you shall surely bring it back to him again.
Good job. Then next would be Natasha, but she's not here. So then Rachel, can you do the next verse? Verse 5.
Ki tere chamor shena no senacha ruvets tahat masau vecha deleta vehad hold on vehadalta me atzav me atzov lo atzov ta atzov emu or emu. And if you see the donkey of someone you hate crouching under its burden, would you refrain from helping him? You shall help repeatedly with him.
So that was really a curious verse because you've got the word, so vechadalta me azov, you shall stop or refrain from abandoning him or forsaking him. And then they use that same root, azav. You shall not, okay, azov ta azov imo. So you shall, it seems like you should read that, you shall certainly forsake him. I think what it means there might be like, sometimes words carry the opposite meaning, like a chatat is sin, but it can also be a purification from sin. Rarely. But maybe in this case, it means you'll leave with him. You'll certainly leave with him. Like, in other words, you both go on your way together. You don't leave him until you both leave. But anyway, that was a tricky one. It's tricky.
So if you read that, I'm trying to track with you, but I mean, I know that those sometimes have the opposite meanings.
Yeah.
But here it says, is it saying you will not refrain from helping him? You will surely help him. Is that what it says or not?
What I have is you shall refrain from leaving it with him. You shall help him to lift it up.
Well, so all the translations that I've heard so far, they change azov into help. And like, for example, even in the Strongs, it's got it's rescue versus leaving. So it's like another meaning. And so sometimes words do have opposite meanings. You rescue or you leave, right? That's very different. But so that you read that in English and it's like, oh, okay. You read it in the Hebrew, it's like, what? So Don, go ahead.
The note here, okay, we're talking about a beast that is, it sounds like he's overloaded, and he's collapsed. And it said, you shall help repeatedly with him. The sages derive from the repetition of the verb form that one must render assistance time and time again if the animal continues to collapse. If the owner is not present or if he is unable to participate in the task, the passerby must do it himself. But if the owner refuses to help and expects the passerby to do it himself because it is a mitzvot, he is excused, because the Torah qualifies the commandment by saying that it must be performed with him, with the animal's owner.
Oh, interesting. By the way, one time I was writing an article about this, and and I looked up pictures of donkeys on Google with loads, and it is insane. It is insane what some people expect a donkey. I'm like, you cannot believe. And so, like, so donkeys are impressive animals, I'll tell you. So, okay. Go ahead.
My one visit to Egypt, I looked out my window and there was a camel that you could hardly see the camel because of the load that he was bearing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm totally lost. Who's reading the next verse? That's Steve, right? Or who's reading the next verse?
No, Mom was the last one
Ah.
to read the verse, I think.
Susan, you've got a verse left.
Actually, we were reading Natasha's,
You're right.
Yeah,
You're
it's
right.
not me. I was all
and that was the
done.
last one.
Okay, we're reading Natasha's, so it's you.
No, I already read a verse. There's no way I'm doing it again.
Where are we?
Yeah, I want to hear you again.
Is it my turn? What? Okay,
It
I'll
was
read it.
me. Whoever comes after me.
Who comes after Rachel? It's Don. Don, are you up for it?
We'll give it a good try.
Okay.
Lotacha mishpateh av yineha beira yiveu. Oh, do not pervert the judgment of your destitute person in his grievance.
All right, good job. Now we are moving on from Natasha to Rachel.
Okay. I get both places going here. Okay. Midvar shecher tirchak ve nachi ve sadik al ta harog ki lo at sedek rasha. Distance yourself from a false word. Do not execute the innocent or the righteous, for I shall not exonerate the wicked.
I
Yeah.
had a question there. You said the righteous, that's a tzaddik. Is that what we're talking about? And, this translation says it's or an acquitted man. Tzaddik and acquitted are different things, correct?
So it's okay because, like, yeah, Tzaddik is righteous, but if someone has been acquitted, then sometimes we also say he's been counted as righteous. So it's kind of, it's okay. You just see so much flexibility in the translation, and lots of times they're just trying to make it clear, and I'm usually good with it. Go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say I love the literal translation of that, though, where he will not make wickedness righteous. He will not make wicked righteous. I mean, that's
right.
Powerful to me. I mean, I think, especially combined with the Isaiah passage about, you will call wicked Tov and Tov Ra and all that stuff, Anyway,
Hey, right.
I love the literal much better.
Yeah. It's nice getting it right from the source. Okay, Don. Wait,
that was
Rachel.
Ve shochad lo tik ti hak. Did I read that already?
No, you're good.
Okay, sounds the same. Ki ha shochad yad yi ya ve, no, yivor, pe, no, pich, came, pichem, ve, oh boy, ve iselef, ve devre, sadekim, sadekim. Do not accept a, oh, I lost my page. Do not accept a bribe, for the bribe will blind those who see and corrupt words that are just. Oh, that sounds familiar in our Congress. Hold on, I lost my, has to reboot.
I've been thinking about the whole thing, all during these verses, I've been thinking the same thing.
Mhm.
Are you having trouble getting to verse 9?
I'm getting there, it's loading. I
Oh,
pushed the wrong button. Okay, I'm
okay.
there. All right, here we go. Veger lo til chat ve atem yi datem et nafesh hager ki gerim ha yetem be eretz mitzrayim.
I don't
Do
want to
not,
slow us down, Peter, but this one is exactly opposite. I mean, what you were saying, they'd call a ger as a convert.
Yeah.
This one blows that one away. I mean, it's like you can't say that anymore when you read this one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt.
Well, no, I think about that because I'm going to be a ger. We hope to be ger. I don't know when, next year or 5 years from now, but we're going to be gers. And there's rights for gers, but I don't intend to be a convert.
Yeah. This one you need to have in your back pocket all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is the translation of nephesh is normally life, correct?
Nephesh can be body. Like there's in the Psalms in one place it says, my nephesh is thirsty or something, and it's slaked with water. But yeah, usually it's like soul, but it can have different meanings.
Okay.
It can be the whole person. Yeah. Go ahead and translate, Rachel.
do not oppress a stranger. You know the feelings of a stranger, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. Veishish shanim titra et aretzka ve'asafta et tivoata 6 years shall you sow your land and gather in its produce. And 11. Ve'hash ve'it tish metena un sashta. Sorry. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. I'm gonna try that again. Un sashta ve akelu e vene amecha ve it ram tokal kait hashoda hashade kin ta'ase le chare mecha le ze techa. Right. Translation. And in the 7th, you shall leave it unattended and unharvested, and the destitute of your people shall eat, and the wildlife of the field shall eat what is left of them. So shall you do to your vineyard and your olive grove. One more?
Yes.
Okay. Sheshet yimim ta'aseh ma'aseka uvayom hashavei teshevut tishvot le ma'an yanuach she oreka ve kamoreka ve'i nafesh ben amatecha ve hager. 6 days shall you accomplish your activities, and on the 7th day you shall desist, so that your ox and donkey may be content, and your maidservant's son and the sojourner may be refreshed. Whew, that was a struggle for me today.
All right, good job.
Good.
Don.
Okay. Uvechol asher amarti alechem tishameru veshem Elohim acherim lo tzakiru lo yishama al picha shalosh regalim.
Oh, wait, hold on. You're go ahead and translate 13 first.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm sorry. Regarding everything that I have said to you, be careful. The name of the gods of others you shall not mention, nor shall it be heard through your mouth.
So, by the way, because of this, we don't ever say the name of the Muslim god. We just say, like if we're reading, it says we'll just say their God, our God, my God, because everyone has their God, but I don't say the name of their God, even if it's in the text. I don't believe it's the same God for other reasons. So.
This causes me a consideration, because a number of times when the Hebrews were captured and taken away, they were given new names, and very often it was the name of one of their gods. So whenever the king called them, he was calling them by this name of this other god.
That's something I hadn't thought of, and you're right. Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is a good example, and I never thought of that. Yeah.
And even Joseph, in Egypt,
Right. Good point.
So where is that in this text? Is that in this text?
Yeah, so the other gods you shall not remember, and or cause, it's Hethil, so cause to be remembered, or you could mention is the way one translation puts it, and it shall not be heard on your mouth.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
The way
I thought it was in there. I thought the Muslim god was in there somewhere.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I respect what you're doing on that, Peter. I tend to want to do the same. I think there's also maybe maybe an additional understanding that can be layered on top of what you're saying, is that how it says shame, which is it could be the label that's on that, what we call that God, but it's also the reputation, or of that God, and so if you cause that to be remembered, it's sort of like you're beefing them up, or you're saying, giving them some kind of credibility you know, street creds, as my children might say, or something, you know. But, you know, if you give them any kind of legitimacy or power, that could be another way to understand this, is because you do have other prophets and books of the Bible that actually, you know, say the names of these other gods. So there's the literal speaking it, and then there's the result of maybe speaking it so often, somehow now it gets, people are thinking it's something real about it, you know, and it's not.
I used to be in the martial arts, and there's some exceptional martial artists that have some exceptional records, and if I found that if I talked about them and really, you know, kind of proclaimed their power in certain areas, I always felt afterward like I had yeah, like it wasn't the right thing to do, even though I was really into it and everything. I felt like it was the wrong thing to do, and that'd be more like the fame aspect of it, or the power.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, maybe literally saying it is contributes to that, but maybe that in itself, if you're maybe in a teaching mode or something, and you're talking about some other Ishtar or something like that, and you're explaining how that maybe somehow relates to Easter, you know, or something like that. Maybe that's not as critical. Yeah.
Yeah, I just tend to be black and white.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I think that's a good way to do. Yep.
I agree with what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
I see where, let's see, the word speaks about the adversary, or Hashatan. He's the accuser. Isn't that what it's a description of him rather than a name?
Yeah, it's both. I think it's both, because Yeshua says, I think he says Satan, and so it's both. I think a description and a name. Yeah,
Because he's the accuser of the brethren.
verb
It
means
says
to
in,
oppose.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, and you're giving you're giving honor or credit, and that's what he's looking for. You know, at the end of days, you know, he's going to sit down in the seat and require worship, and that's what he's wanting.
Right. Okay, Rachel.
Oh no, it's me. Yeah, I get to do this one again.
I'll just say, all right, continue, and you guys can figure out who's supposed to be going. Okay.
Shalosh regalim tahog li bashana. Regarding everything that I have said to you, be careful. The name of the gods of others you shall not mention, nor shall it be heard through your mouth. Oh, I did that one already. The shalosh. Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
3 pilgrim festivals shall you celebrate for me during the year. Okay. Echad hamatzot tishmor shivat yamim tahol matzot ha'asher tziviticha lemoed chodesh ha'aviv ki lo yatzata mi mitzrayim velo yera'u fanai recham. The festival of matzot you shall observe for a 7-day period. You shall eat matzot as I have commanded you at the appointed time of the month of springtime, for in it you left from Egypt. You shall not be before me empty-handed. V'chag ha-katzir bi-kurei ma'aseh ha-asher si ra basadeh v'chag ha-asif betzet ha-shana be'ospecha et ma'aseha min ha-sadeh. and the festival of the harvest of the first fruits of your labor that you plant in the field, and the festival of the ingathering at the close of the year when you gather in your work from the field. Shalosh pe'amim ba'ashana yera'eh kol zichor ha el penei ha Adon Adonai. 3 times during the year shall all the males among you before the presence of the Lord Hashem. Lo sibach al hametz dam zivki velo yalin ki lev hagi ad bocher. You shall not offer upon leavened bread the blood of my offering, nor may remain overnight the fat of my festival offering until morning.
All right, good job. Now the next verses are Vanessa's, and she's not here. Do you guys remember whose turn it is to pick up?
I thought I had one more verse actually.
Oh, really? No, you're good. You're done.
Okay.
You just finished 18, right? Yeah, you're
Correct.
good.
Okay.
All right. So,
okay, yeah.
We think Don was the last one to read Natasha's verses. Is that correct? Yes. So that would be Sharon now, if you want to read.
You want me to read all of hers or just one?
Just one, verse
Okay.
19.
Okay. Reshit Bikurei Amacha Tavi Bet Adonai Elohecha Lo Tevashel Gedei Bachalev Imo. The first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring to the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk.
All right, and then it would be. Go ahead.
Okay. Hine Anochi Sholeach Malach Lefanecha Lishmarecha Badarech Belacheviacha Al Hamakom Asher Hakinoti. Excuse me. And behold, I am sending an angel before you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Steve.
Okay. It was what verse?
21.
21. Hishmer mipanav ushma bekolo et tamer bo kilo yisa lafishakem ki shmi bekirbo. The guarding from his presence, and he will hear his voice. Do not be bitter in it, because he will not lift up or he will not bear your transgressions, because my name is brought near to him.
Good.
Or is near to him.
Okay, go ahead.
22.
Mm-hmm.
כי אם שמוע תשמע בקולו, ועשית כל אשר אדבר, ואייבתי את אויביך, וצרתי את צורריך. For if you certainly listen to his voice and do all that I tell you, I shall be an enemy to your enemies, and I shall be hostile against your attackers.
Okay.
Okay.
כי ילך מלאכי לפניך, והביאך אל האמורי, והחיתי, והפריזי, והכנעני, והחיבי, והיבוסי, והיכחדתיו. היכחדתיו.
Glad you're reading it because that's mine.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. Go ahead, finish it. That looks tough. Looks like a
Let's
hard
see.
one.
For my messenger will go before you, and he will bring you to the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and he'll blot them out or make them disappear.
Say, Sharon,
Yeah.
in the Chumash, what Peter just read was number 23.
Yeah.
And I think yours starts on 25.
No. Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I was looking at the wrong one.
Oh, okay.
So there's still one more.
Oh, okay.
That would be Susan. Are you up for verse 24?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Lo tishtachave le Elohehem velo ta'avdem velo ta'ase ki ma'asehem ki hades teharsem ve'shaber teshaber matzevotehem. You shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works. But you shall completely overthrow them and break down their images in pieces.
Thank you.
Okay, now I can read.
Yes.
Okay. Va'avadem vadtem et Adonai Elohechem overech et lach mecha ve'et me ka cha v'hasiroti machala mikirbecha. And you shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of you. Lo tihiye mi shakela va'akera be'er zeka et mispar yemecha amale. None shall miscarry nor be barren in your land. The number of your days I will fulfill. Et emati shalach lefanecha vehamoti et kol ha'am asher tavo bahem venatu venatati et kol oivecha elecha oref. I will send my fear before you and will destroy all the peoples to whom you shall come. I will make all your enemies turn their backs on you. Veshalachti et hatzira lafanecha vegersha et hachivi et hakanani ve'et hakiti milfanecha. And I will send hornets before you, which shall deliver out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite before you. Let's see, I go to 30. Lo agar shenu mi panecha beshana echa pen tihiye haaretz shamama veraba alecha kayat hasadeh. I will not drive them out before you in 1 year, lest the land become. Let's see, I will not drive them out before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the beasts of the field multiply against you. Let's see. Me'at, me'at, agashenu, mipanecha, ad asher tifre, venachalta, et haaretz. Little by little I will drive them out before you until you increase and inherit the land.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, Anna.
I have more trouble with the English than
Yeah,
the Hebrew.
you're doing fine.
Okay. Veshati et gavulecha miyam suf va'ad yam plishtim umimid bar ad hagahar ki eten b'yedchem et yoshvi haaretz v'gerash tamo mipanecha. Okay. And I will put your boundaries from the Sea of Reeds up to the Sea of the Philistines, and from and the wilderness unto the river. And I think in my other translation it said that's the Euphrates. For
Right.
I shall deliver into your hands those who dwell in the land, and you will drive them out from before you. Lo tichrot lechem ve'lochem berit. Okay, and not you will cut with them, or with them, or with their gods a covenant. Lo yeshvu ba'artsecha hin yachatiu otecha liki talach lemukim. Yeah. Okay, and not they will dwell in your land, lest they cause you to sin against me, for you will worship their gods, that will be for you a snare. Okay. Ve'el Moshe amar ale el Adonai ata ve'aharon nadav ve'avihu ve'shivim mizikne Yisrael ve'hish tahavitem merachok. Let's see. And unto Moses he said, go up to the Lord, or the God, you and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and 70 of the elders of Israel, and you shall bow down or worship from afar. Is this my last? No, two more. Okay. Venigash Moshe levado el Adonai v'chem lo yigashu v'ha'am lo ya'alu imo. And will come near or approach Moses to himself unto the Lord, and they are not to approach the people, shall not go up with him. Vayavo Moshe Vaysaper La'am et kol divrei Adonai ve'et kol hamishpatim vaya'an kol ha'am kol echad vayomru kol hadvarim asher diber Adonai naaseh. Okay. And came Moses and spoke to the people all the words of the Lord and all the ordinances or judgments, and answered the people with one voice. They said, all the words that were spoken by the Lord, we will do.
Thank you. All right, Steve.
ויקטוב משה את כל דברי אדוני, וישכם בבוקר, ויבן מזבח תחת ההר, ושתים עשרה מצבה לשנים עשר שבטי Israel. And Moses wrote all the words of Adonai, and he rose early in the morning and built an altar under the mountain, or at the base of the mountain, and 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel. Vayishlach et na'arei b'nei Yisrael vaya'alu alot vayizbechu zavachim shalamim la'adonai parim. And he sent out the youths of the sons or children of Israel, and they went up, and they caused to go up the going up offerings or burnt offerings, and they slaughterings, peace offerings to Adonai, bulls. Vayikach Moshe Chatzi Hadam Vayisem Ba'oznot, wait, by Aganot, Vayisem by Aganot V'Chatzi Hadam Zarak al Hamizbeach. And Moses took half of the blood and he placed it in bowls, and half of the blood and threw it upon the altar. Vayikach Sefer Habrit Vayikra Be'oznei Ha'am Vayomru Kol Asher Diber Adonai Naaseh Vanishma. And he took the book of the covenant, and he proclaimed in the ears of the people, and they said, all that Adonai has spoken, we will do and we will hear. Vayikach Moshe et Hadam Vayizrok al Ha'am Vayomer Hine Dam Habarit Asher Karat Adonai Imakim al Kol Hadavarim Ha'ele. And Moses took the blood and he threw it over the people. And he said, behold, the blood of the covenant, which Adonai cut with you all, regarding all these words. Vaya'al Moshe va'Aharon Nadav ve'Avihu Vaishivim Misikine Israel. And Moses went up, and Aaron, Nadav, and Abihu, and 70 of the bearded ones or elders of Israel.
Wait,
oh,
you're
that's
good.
it. Okay.
Yes. And thank you. And in verse 4, there's an interesting thing there for those of you that want to think about this. It's a lot to process, but so you've got the Shteim Esrei Matzeva. So the Shteim with that tet in there is a clue that it's feminine. And then the Esrei with the Hey on the end is feminine. And that describes the pillars, which are feminine. And then the Shneim Asar, so the no tav in it, just Shneim is masculine, and then Asar without a Hey on the end is masculine, and that's for the tribes, which are masculine. The reason it's useful to think about those when you see them is because otherwise numbers are reversed. Like here they fit. They're feminine for the feminine, masculine for the masculine. But oftentimes, with ordinal numbers like 1 through 9, the feminine looking number is masculine and the masculine looking number is feminine. So it's just something to kind of like take a second look at if you want. In verse 7, they say that all which Hashem says we will do and we will hear or obey. Interesting. So like I see that the ESV says we will be obedient. The normal meaning of Shema is to hear and obey, but they're gonna do it and be obedient. But you could almost kind of say they'll do it and then they'll hear it, which is interesting. And then I noticed that we got from our Alabama guy for verse 8, Imachem, all y'all, or y'all. So that was a good translation for Imachem with y'all. And, so that was fun. Okay, now verse 10 with Kellen.
Okay. ויראו את אלוהי ישראל ותחת רגליו כמעשק לבנת הספיר וכעצם השמיים לתוכן. And the God of Israel appeared, and under his feet was made as a pavement of jasper and as pure blue as the sky. ואל אצילי בני ישראל לא שלח ידו ויחזו את האלוהים ויאכלו וישתו. And against the nobles of the sons of Israel, he did not send out his hand, and they beheld God, and they ate and they drank. ויאמר אדוני אל משה, עלה אלי ההרה, והיה שם, ואתנה לך את לוחות האבן והתורה, והמצווה אשר כתבתי להורותם. And Hashem said to Moses, go up to me on the mountain, and I shall be there, and I will give to you the tablets of stone and the Torah and the commandment which I have written for their instruction. Vayakam Moshe v'Yehoshua misharto vaya'al Moshe el har ha'Elohim. And Moses arose and Joshua his aide, and Moses went up to the mountain of God. Ve'el hazkenim amar שבו לנו וזה עד אשר נשוב עליכם, והנה אהרון וחור עמכם, מי ועל דברים ייגש עליהם. To the elders he said, stay here until we return to you, and behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a dispute with anything, they shall approach to them. ויעל משה אל ההר, ויכס הענן את ההר. And Moses went up to the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain.
In verse 10, anyone have sapphire for that pavement instead of jasper?
I said sapphire.
Have sapphire.
Sapphire. Okay. Sapphire,
Yeah.
it's one of those words that it
But
looks.
I was just wondering when you read that, whether
Yeah.
it's not the same thing then?
I
Okay.
I don't really know, but what I like about it is that it looks a lot. Our sapphire sounds a lot like the Hebrew right here. Kind of helps it. And then in verse 12, the last word in verse 12. So ve hamitzvah asher katavti lehorotam. So lehorotam is for their instruction. In modern Hebrew, the word for parents is horim, and comes from this. So the main job of parents is to give instruction, and you can kind of tie that into this is specifically what kind of instruction.
Isn't that what the Shema is saying though too? The Shema is telling you to teach.
Yes, right. And and in times of non-conflict, right? When you're sitting down, when you're walking along the road, it's easy to give instruction when you're angry and yell it, but that doesn't go over as well as when you are giving a back rub and giving instruction. That goes over much better. Okay. Okay. So verse 16, Vayishkon kevod Adonai al har Sinai, Vayichasehu he'anan, sheshet yamim, vayikra el Moshe bayom hashvi'i mitoch he'anan. And the glory of Hashem dwelt upon the mountain of Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. And he called to Moses on the seventh day from the midst of the cloud. Umar'eh kevod Adonai ke'esh ochelet berosh hahar le'ene b'nei Yisrael. And the appearance of the glory of Hashem was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountain in the eyes of the children of Israel. And that's where I guess Hebrews gets that one. It says God is a consuming fire. I think it comes from that verse right there. Vayavo Moshe betoch he'anan vaya'ar el hahar vayhi Moshe bahar arba'im yom ve'arba'im laila. And Moses came into the midst of the cloud, and he ascended the mountain. And Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. And there we go. Now, before anybody goes, the default for my Zoom is it records. And I've erased all the recordings. I also took off the old ones from YouTube. But I'll check with Vanessa first if you guys say yes. Are you guys okay with me putting a link to this recording on Facebook so people can see how we do this? If anyone says no, I won't do it.
Better.
Okay,
Fine by me.
okay, I'll check with Vanessa. All right, so we've got a couple things we can discuss, but the reading is done. Thank you guys. Anyone who wants to stick around can stick around. Thank you for all your work. You guys are doing great. Appreciate it.
You know, I have a point about this last passage. It talks about the covenant. You know, where does it say that he the book of the covenant? You know, Moses is going up and down the mountain, and at what point is he writing this down so that they can throw the blood on it or something? I'm kind of confused as to the timing
Yeah,
of
he
all
did.
of this.
He did some of that earlier, and he wrote it down. But he's gonna get more over these next 40 days, so he's gonna have to write more. You know
He's going to get writer's cramp.
you know the Orthodox, some ultra Orthodox believe that, maybe you'd say ultra Orthodox believe that he got the whole oral law on Mount Sinai too. The international director for the Temple Institute, Chaim Richman, I heard him speak one time. He goes, "What do you think he was doing up there for 40 days? Embroidery?" And so, but I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me because, yeah, but because the oral law includes arguments, you know, that anyway.
All this back and forth with rabbis. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had two things that came up. And if you want to go, anyone, you can. Don, the woman is a slave. It sounds pretty harsh. David Foreman puts a really good spin on that. Anyone familiar with what David Foreman says about that on Aleph Beta? Okay, so he's got a video about that, and wow, it totally changes the whole perspective about a man giving his daughter as a slave. And what he says it was a way for people to jump class. So, like, let's say, you know, you've got a daughter who's talented or, you know, wonderful character or beautiful, whatever. She's very attractive to an upper class, you know, a ruling or a merchant class. Then the man can sell her as a slave, but the understanding is that the guy's going to marry her, or he's going to appoint her to be married to his son. And in this way, the woman actually jumps class. So that's the spin he puts on it. It sounds a lot better than, you know, when you're reading it and a man sells his daughter as a slave. And then we were talking about Job, and Don brought up the thing about it isn't always cause and effect. Anybody else got something about Job you want to share? Well, what I was thinking was Susan's got this NIV study Bible with commentaries before the books, and one of the best commentaries I've ever seen on Job is in there. And he says, when God says to Satan, "Have you seen my righteous servant Job?" And then Job said, or Satan says, "He's only righteous because you bless him." It's kind of throwing down the gauntlet and forcing God to respond. He's actually putting God to the test in a sense and saying, prove it. And so God does, he punishes Job to prove that he's righteous, not because he's blessed, but because he loves God. And it's like, the way he says, what God is willing to do is put Job into a titanic struggle between good and evil as a witness to the universe, basically, that God is willing to put Job in that position. and Job does it. It's like, wow, like I wouldn't survive like Job did, but but God knowing that he hasn't done anything wrong. And so like his friends accusing him and they're all off base. And yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to show you. It's a God having so much trust in him that he's willing to put him into the midst of that test.
The instruction, it was by Hillsdale College is where this comes from. And the instructor was actually saying that, okay, the three friends, kind of painful, friends, accused him of misdoing, and that's the reason why his calamity has happened. And yet it says that he did not sin at the end of it, but it also he was bringing back that he's looking forward to the Messiah, the Redeemer, who will redeem his, he will stand in his flesh and see his Redeemer. And so he's actually saying that this is a looking forward to the New Testament and how our Lord is the one that is the Redeemer and will justify him, I guess, is what.
I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand upon the earth. I myself will see him with my own eyes. I and not another. How my flesh yearns within me. Yeah, it's like totally the gospel right there. Yeah, beautiful. Good point. There's a song like that too. That woman. I know my Redeemer lives. It's a wonderful song. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. There is another controversial point that I had brought out on yesterday, and that goes back to chapter 21, and in verse, let's see, about 22, it's talking. And I had brought it up, and there's commentary about, the death of a fetus. And in the commentary, it says, as shall be assessed, causing the death of a fetus is not a capital offense. And, but the person responsible must pay damages. And this kind of conflicts with the abortion issue in that we say that life begins at conception, and if the Torah is saying life for life, then the fetus is a life. Other people have said, going all the way back to Bereshit, that God breathed into man and man became a living soul. And so some people have said that at the moment of breathing your first breath is when life occurs. And when you breathe your last breath, that's the end of you. I don't know. What this is up for discussion.
I have a question on that. Mm-hmm. That's the question on that particular verse. Does it say that does it say that there's death in a child is died there literally, or does it say that the child has gone out?
Right. When Don was reading that translation earlier, was that the Chumash, Don? And it was interesting because it made me question it right then. Because if you take verse 22, like Steve was just saying, the children go out, but there's not a, I forget what word Don said, but harm is a sown.
A sown.
Yeah. And then in verse 23, it says, but if there is a sown, then life for life.
Yeah.
So to me, it sounds like that's contradicting the commentary that, in other words, if she gives birth prematurely, but they live, then there's a punishment to be paid. but are fine. But if the children die, then it's life for life. So that's what I got from it. And it seems different from what your commentary said.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
a
agree.
son, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask about a song. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, this said a fatality is a son.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know if you go with the rule of thumb for first usage. I don't know if you ever heard of that or if you go by that or not, but if you look at first usage, it doesn't seem to be talking about a fatality. It's more of harm. And then when it goes to talk about life for life, because remember the numbers for these verses were added later, and so it says life for life, and then the number of that verse ends. But if you keep reading it as if it were no numbers, it then continues a long stream. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, and so it's in context, it's just talking about equality. And then the very next verse after the long string of equality type statements, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, it says, if an eye or a tooth goes out, it doesn't say then the eye will be plucked out. It says, then you'll surely pay whatever's fair. And then that does it for the tooth. And then it does it for, it gives more than one to kind of repeat that to show, we're not necessarily saying I'm going to go gouge out an eye when an eye is lost. It's saying the fairness of it. So even with the child yatsa going out, and there is no, whatever we're going to agree, whatever a son is, that if there is no harm, and then it goes and explains if it goes out and there is harm, then it goes this long stream. The first one is life for life, right? But all those other ones are backed up behind it. So it's saying everything is fair. And like Peter pointed out before, when there's murder and it calls out murder, then a life has to be taken. And then there's exceptions to that also, is, well, there's times where when someone dies, you can do a redemption kind of thing where it's payment instead of life. So to me, I think we stop short on the context of all that. And we want it to be about abortion, where a baby dies, but it doesn't literally say that. And so I have a hard time trying to work that into this, because it doesn't say death, as far as I could tell, unless a son means something more than we think it does.
Right.
But
Yeah.
could I ask what verse you're talking about? Because my internet kind of kicked me out for a while.
It's 21 and 22 and 23 and 24, but around that area. 21 is and then 22, it talks about a son.
Of which chapter?
Yeah, I'm sorry, 21, chapter 21.
Okay.
So 21, 22. But again, the whole thing of life, and murder, I think that's clear, and but then the whole thing of defining where does life start, that's trying to use this verse to say life doesn't start, to me doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because of, it doesn't say it. I mean, it takes a lot of assumptions to get there.
Yeah, you can do that better from, like, was it Psalm 139? You knitted me together in my mother's womb. Or Jeremiah says, you had all my days planned for me while I was in my mother's womb. That's closer.
Yeah. And also the other thing is the context of this is two men fighting. So they're talking about two men fighting, and then there's a casualty because the woman gets hit, and then a baby goes out.
Right.
My translation gives it as a miscarriage. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
And there is a miscarriage. Now, today's meaning of miscarriage means that the child does not survive. At least, I don't know if that's the same meaning that we have in this
Yeah.
text.
Yeah, I don't know either, but so do you have in your app there, Peter, can you look at the first usage easily?
Yeah, it was, I looked it up while you were talking. It was, I think Genesis 48, and it was, oh, here, I probably still got it. 42:4 with Jacob not wanting his son to go down to Egypt because he might get hurt like Joseph did. He didn't want Benjamin to go down to Egypt because he might get harmed. And in his mind, he thinks Joseph is dead, so a son could mean death there,
Well,
or it could just mean
right, because death is definitely harm. Right, death is definitely harm, but harm isn't always definitely death.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's interesting. All right, hey, thanks, guys.
Yep.
Good job.
All right.
I appreciate. It's kind of fun to get off the treadmill and take some time to look at these things.
I enjoy it. Thank you for everybody's time, and
Yeah, thank you.
it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Bless you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate to kind of backtrack, but because I was out, I missed the discussion on Job. And that up until about the time this all came in. So what did I miss in terms of the discussion? I had wanted to be there for that, and my internet.
If Steve and Don don't want to hear it again, you don't have to. But so that Satan threw down the gauntlet with God. Well, God said, "Look have you seen my servant Job? He's righteous in all the earth." And Satan says, "Only because you bless him." Mm-hmm. And really, there's no way that actually forces God's hand, because if God says no, that's not why. Well, the doubt is there, and so God is willing to put Job through all that suffering to prove not just to Satan, but to the world that Job is righteous, not because he's blessed. And it kind of really goes against the whole prosperity doctrine and everything, that, that if people live righteously, they'll be blessed, because Job lived righteously and he was cursed. And but God is willing to throw him under the bus, basically, because he knows that he'll come through it. And so the way it puts it in the commentary is that Job becomes he plays this pivotal role in a battle between God and Satan, a cosmic battle between God and Satan, and he passes.
Right.
There's another aspect to this, in that God does not afflict Job. It is Satan that afflicts Job. It's permitted by God. The other thing about it is that that was brought out in this little class was that God asks Job, were you there when I created the universe and all of these things? And of course Job can't respond. But the point was that here Job has become almost a bet, so to speak, between Satan and God. And so he has a right to defend himself or to question, what has gone on, because here he is, in Bereshit, we are made in the image of God, and so that is, in a way, it's almost a diminishing of his value, I suppose, that he just becomes kind of a play piece or something, so there's a real complication to the whole
I've always
book.
been surprised that God chose him out for questioning, because that's the least that I would have done in that case. The least I would be doing. Well, gosh, look at David. I mean, David really raises. I can't think of a good way to continue with what I was trying to say, but go ahead. What were you saying, Steve?
I was going to say, is it clear to anyone that, as far as Job and, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, I don't think he's a Hebrew, right? So,
Right.
So he's basically, I guess we could call him a ger,
Right.
Is that right? Is that right? I mean, because the example nation is Israel, I guess, and that's where the examples are happening. But somehow Job, wherever he fits in history, has a huge understanding of how to have a relationship with the Creator.
Yeah.
So anyway, I find that interesting, but I thought maybe you guys might have some insight into Job's.
I'm thinking though, anyone prior to Abraham or even maybe past him, I mean, before that wouldn't have been considered Hebrew, correct?
That's right. That's exactly right. Yep.
So, Noah and, Shem and all of that, I mean, they wouldn't have been considered, Hebrew either. So, and Job being,
that's
way
exactly
back
right.
in those throes of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things is that in John 3:16, it says, God so loved the world. He didn't just say he loved the Hebrews.
No,
He
that's
said
true.
the whole world.
Yep.
And so one other, let me see, what was the other aspect I was going to bring out about this? Oh, you were, Peter, you talked about, we were talking about the good receives good and bad receives bad. And you mentioned Psalms where David is questioning, why are the heathen, or why are these unrighteous people prospering? Look at the rest of us that are trying to follow you, and and me in particular, I'm having a hard time here. And God says, look ahead. He kind of shows, the end of what happens to these people. That no, they don't get away with it. I mean, they may temporarily benefit, but no, what goes around comes around.
Right. Yeah. Hey, well, thanks, guys. Really good seeing you.
Yep.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Just apart from that, I noticed that you put up on Hebrew Torah that you have an actual class starting up, and it talked about kids and adults, but I wasn't sure what that meant because it talked about different grade ranges, And
Yes, that's us. That's us. We're the one room schoolhouse.
Oh, okay.
So it's like someone who reads the transliteration and the translation. That's like first grade, and reading from the Hebrew and translating from the Hebrew is like 8th grade, and eventually we'll all be in high school. That's the
So that starts at 11 o'clock on Sundays. Is that what I'm hearing?
No. I put down 11 o'clock Eastern time because I just wanted people to know that we're open across the country.
Got it. Okay, because I didn't look close enough to pick that up. I was wondering if it was a different class.
No,
in addition, a dovetail.
You've arrived.
Okay. Good to know.
All right. Take care,
Didn't want to miss out.
Well, and
yeah.
I got from that Peter didn't talk to me and was starting a new class at 11.
Oh, well, then I wasn't the only one who got
And have purposely not talked to him about it yet because I didn't want to get mad. And he started something without me. So I'm
Well,
glad
it
you
sounds like he
cleared
cleaned
that
it up.
So thanks for protecting me. Aaron.
Sounds like a
Very
family
good.
matter here.
All right.
All
Bye-bye,
right,
guys.
bye-bye.